Welcome to the third episode of Save the Franchise. I'm Keegan Fisher. I'm here with my two co-hosts, Tyler Muchnick and Austin Shoemaker. Tyler, how you doing this morning?
It's a great, lovely morning so far. Excited to draft some players
Yep.
and coaches.
Yep. How about you, Austin?
Yes, sir. Excited to get into it. Always love a good draft day.
Yep. So today we're drafting. We're kind of doing a ranking show in a draft format. We're gonna go around. We're gonna pick most valuable people in the NFL. We're leaving owners out of this. We don't want to get into those politics today. But we're gonna talk players, coaches, GMs. Who's the most valuable for long term in terms of long term value? We're gonna assume that anybody we pick is signed to a 2-year contract at about top five at their position, and then after that, it's incumbent upon the team to extend them. Um, and yeah, we're gonna see how that goes. We're gonna compare them. A lot of shows do quarterback rankings, they do coach rankings, so on and so forth. We're gonna try to really break down how do they relate to one another, and to what degree are those pieces really significantly impacting their franchise. So we're gonna get it going. Tyler has the number one overall pick in this draft. Tyler, why don't you kick things off?
Okay, for number one overall pick, this really did not take any thought or sort of anything. It's Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, he can go to any team and they're instantly contenders. There's a If you're starting a franchise, uh, I genuinely believe a QB is the most important thing, and he is a tier ahead of all the other QBs in my opinion. But yeah, no, this pick was pretty easy in my opinion.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Bold
That
risk
throws us
taker there.
off.
Yeah.
That definitely,
No, I
yeah,
agree.
no,
I think
that throws off my game plan.
I agree with the pick. I mean, obviously, Mahomes, he's just in a class of his own. In my rankings, I have him tier one above anybody else. A clear gap even still between him and Allen. Allen's really closed it lately, but even so, it's yeah. So, Austin, now that I've set up your pick, you want to take us off with the second pick in the draft?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great pick. I was expecting Tyler to go a different direction. But considering that he went quarterback, number one overall, Patrick Mahomes, great pick. I think I'm gonna follow suit, even though I do not like this individual at all. I think the talent stands for itself. I think he's a player that you could plug in any team and he's gonna help you succeed. So I'm gonna go with Josh Allen, quarterback with number two overall.
Okay. Yep. A little bit chalky here so far, but that's cool. I think it's got to be that way. Yeah, Allen's in the same category, kind of that superhuman ability to just lift teams, and he allows your team, just like Mahomes, to play in pretty much any way you want to play, and I think that's the real key for them, compared to the rest of the quarterbacks on the list for me, is that you can drop them in any situation, you can have them adapt to what the team wants to do, and they're gonna operate at a very very high level. All right. So I've got back-to-back picks here. We're running a snake style draft. Um, First of all, at my first pick, I'm gonna take Lamar Jackson, third overall. This might surprise Tyler a little bit, but no, I think Lamar, despite the playoff issues, that's just the one thing. I think if you can figure it out, he is in that tier with Josh Allen. I mean, there are so many things you can do with him. He's really more scheme diverse now. I don't think you need to be nearly as limited as he was early in his career. Todd Monken's really leveled that passing game, and helped him there. And it's just, yeah, I think he's just got so much game breaking ability, and that you have to have him up there. You just can't get these quarterbacks. You can't find them. You have to luck into them. Even having a number one overall pick doesn't guarantee you getting one of these guys. Even if it all checks out, they're a generational prospect, you know. And so it's too valuable to have someone like this in the NFL. Any thoughts on this?
Okay, Lamar's an amazing player. I think he is by far the third most talented QB. I just view it as tier one, Mahomes, tier two, Josh Allen, and tier three, Lamar. I think they're all kind of in a tier of their own. And me personally, I think I would put a few coaches, maybe not a few. I would put one coach actually ahead of Lamar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't,
Who
I
you?
don't totally disagree. I mean, it's game breaking talent. You see what Lamar can do. it's a guy that you're not going to complain about having on your team. Um, we could get into the value of it for sure, but I think it's a good pick.
Yeah. All right, now I'm gonna rock the boat a little bit. Uh, at the fourth overall pick, I'm taking Justin Herbert. And this is
Wow.
a guy that a lot of people feel is extremely overrated. They want to point to the lack of playoff success. They want to point to the inability to really beat a lot of the great quarterbacks with his team. I don't care. Justin Herbert is the fourth best quarterback in the NFL, and he's far enough up in that elite tier. Well, he is in that elite tier that I feel just because they're so hard to get, I'm taking them over any head coach. I mean, you can make the head coaching higher. There are plenty of functional head coaches in the league that I think with one of these guys, they can, you can go places with them. You can go win a Super Bowl with a moderate coach and one of these guys and good team building strategy, you know. And I think even a really good head coach without one of these guys, it's more hoops to jump through. And so that's why when I look at it like that, I'm taking the quarterback still for a little while longer before I move on to head coach and potentially a GM. So I think people drastically underrate what Herbert does in terms of creating stability for the Chargers offense. I think the way he operates was a little mechanical for the first handful of years, and he's kind of dumbed that down a little bit. I think Jim Harbaugh's kind of done a good job of getting him to, play outside of himself a little bit more, and I think that really helped him last season. I think it's going to continue to do so. I think he's kind of been let down by team building. Most of the time he's been there, it's either been a bad O line or bad weapons, or in last year's case, kind of both. The interior was terrible, and he was constantly facing interior rush pressure, along with only having Lad McConkey to throw to. So that's how I defend the lack of success on his part. You guys have any thoughts?
No,
Okay.
I agree.
I agree, but can you explain why you rank Justin Herbert over Joe Burrow? Because I think they
Mhm.
are pretty close, but why did you choose Herbert?
One, I think Herbert's a significantly better team chemistry piece. We don't know everything that goes on inside the Cincinnati Bengals, locker room, but I don't love the way some of that stuff comes out and all that. And I think Herbert has more potential than Burrow, and I think he's been injured less than Burrow. I don't love some of the wrist injury stuff with Burrow, and I'm wondering if that's going to have long-term effects. And then Herbert's he's bigger, he's a little faster, and I think he's just got a more natural, intuitive understanding of the game. That I think Burrow's just kind of out there playing his one specific scheme of football. He's kind of locked into to playing the jump ball style, giving his receivers chances. He wants to play pure drop back out of the gun and spread it out. And when the Bengals have tried to do other schemes, he has not played nearly as well. And so I think you're kind of pinned in with him. You have to build the team in a certain way, and at some point that's going to break down because you won't be able to acquire the players to keep that rolling properly. So
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. No, I think I might agree with Tyler. I might have gone Joe Burrow in that position. But dude, you can't argue against Justin Herbert. And you're right about the size, the injuries. It's a good pick.
all right, well, now you got a chance to jump on it. What's your next
All
pick?
right. Yep. So now I got the chance. I could double up at QB. But I gotta say, I'm a little surprised almost. I think that Keegan doubled up at QB so soon, just because I think when we're looking at the tiers of quarterback, we have, like we said, we got Mahomes, we got Allen, we got Jackson. I also think Herbert and Burrow are together in their own like fourth tier. But I think that there's another individual in the NFL. I think who basically fits a tier of his own. It's someone who I think could really elevate other players. And considering Keegan's fandom, I'm surprised he didn't go this direction, but I'm gonna jump on it. So with my pick, I'm gonna go with Coach Andy Reid, Big Red. See what he's able to do with Josh Allen and just any quarterback that he brings into the room. Just the offensive creativity, the leadership. I don't think there's really any coach right now in the NFL that really matches up to Andy Reid. For the longest time, we saw Bill Belichick as like this defensive mastermind. Now we have Andy Reid as like this offensive mastermind. And there's lots of other coaches in the NFL that have this offensive mind, and we're going to see them drafted later in this draft, I'm sure. But just the way that Andy is able to bring together different schemes, bring in different players, he can just build this puzzle with basically any role player. He will find these niche ways that they can excel, and he can put together insane plays, insane drives. I really think Andy Reid is in a complete tier of his own with coaches. So yeah, I want him on my team, and I think he fits kind of in this position in the draft.
So Andy Reid's 67. Are you all, at all concerned about the age? Do you think he can keep this going for long enough that it's worth the pick?
I mean, I think he definitely keeps it going for 2 more years. And I mean, he loves it out there. Like, being in Kansas City, like we're kind of like in tune with local news. Like he's doing pretty good with like health. Like there are some coaches that are struggling with like health and whatnot, but it's not like a huge problem for him. He loves what he does. He hasn't really hinted at any sort of retirement. So I think he's got more years to go. Obviously, I don't think he's going to coach till he's 90. He's going to want to retire at some point. But the age really doesn't bother me too much.
Okay. Tyler, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think Andy Reid is a great coach. However, there are, I think about 3 or 4 coaches I think who are currently better right now. So even with the age, to me, I do not love that pick there. But I mean, Andy Reid has the winning track record. He's had a successful career, is one of the greatest coaches of all time. So it's hard to argue against it. It's just I probably would have went for a more youthful coach.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I have. I think one. Yeah, I would have gone a little bit more youthful. I have him a little bit, quite a bit lower in my rankings due to the age factor. However, yeah, I think I have even for just now. I think I have 2 coaches ahead of him. Um, One of my problems with Andy Reid, even as a Chiefs fan, I love him to death, but there's a little bit of an inability to reinvent himself, and I think if you really want to dig deep and point to warning signs, this offense has kind of been regressing the past few years, just like his tenure, what occurred at the end of his tenure in Philly. And I think he needs to get back on track and have Mahomes really play like Mahomes, and get that going again, to kind of get himself back up my rankings. But he does so much in terms of team stability, chemistry. I think it's hard to argue that anybody else runs their team quite as well as him in the league. And so I think there's a lot there. All right, Tyler, you want to get on to the next pick? Two
Yeah,
picks.
so yeah, these 2 picks for me are pretty easy. I'll go one by one though. First one, easily Sean McVay for me. He is by far my favorite coach now and in the future. And the reason I really do enjoy McVay is because he does everything you want as a coach. He does both sides. Even so, yeah, number one, he's an offensive mastermind. He's up in the top tier of scheming, which is something so valuable to have as your head coach, preventing them from getting poached, like we've seen every single offensive coordinator get in the past few years. And he even helps out the defense. Their DCs get hired nonstop. And I think
Hmm.
that's part of the fact that he is a culture guy. He isn't just an X's and O's guy.
Yeah.
And he's young. He's won. For me, it's an easy show, and I think he is the best coach right now and for the future.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with this. McVay is my number one coach now. McVay is my number one coach for years and years to come, unless if he decides to hang it up early. Um, I man, yeah, you hit all the points. Like he's brilliant. He hires the DCs so well, and then helps them become what they need to become. For some reason, they can't succeed outside of him. Got a little bit of a Belichick thing going, on the other side of the ball with that. But yeah, no, it's really impressive. Austin, you have any thoughts?
Yeah,
No, I mean it's a good pick. He was by far my coach too. Um, I still I think Reed's track record, I think again, like you said, the way Reed runs his team, I think is really good. I think Reed also hires very well. We've seen, the Chiefs defense at the very beginning of the dynasty wasn't quite what you wanted it to be. But they've done a great job, I think, of bringing in some culture guys for defense that balance out his offensive mastermind. I really think that they can be somewhat interchangeable in some metrics, but just considering the track record, the experience, and again, just the way he runs his team, that's why I put Reed one tier above McVay. But it's an excellent pick.
I also think that you can see based off the way the Rams draft that McVay knows what he wants and knows what the player's going to be
Mhm.
doing in his offense before they even put on the Rams jersey. I think that's invaluable. All right, Tyler, take us on to your next pick.
And my next pick, I'm gonna go for my home guy over here, Howie Roseman, GM, first GM off the board. Probably be for a while for the next GM in my opinion. It's just what Howie Roseman does for a franchise is something that is so hard to value because yeah, he's not on the field at all. He's not directly influencing it, but he is building rosters year after year that actually make people think that the Eagles are unfair. It really comes down to all aspects of being a GM. Number one, the way he manipulates the cap, gets these players to sign these contracts with very low guaranteed monies, makes it very easy to trade them away when they get older. And that's part of the thing. No player is safe. If you're on an Eagles team, you get you just say you're a Pro Bowler at 30. No, you're gonna get traded while you still have some value.
Hmm.
And even the draft didn't even get into that. Every year, he always seems like he walks away for robbery, and he always finds himself in a spot in the draft where he likes. And if he's not, he will always trade back. And we've seen him trade back 5 times just because there's no one he likes. And I think his confidence and just ability to control a roster is something that is so invaluable.
Yeah, I'm on board. Um, Howie's far and away my number one GM. I don't think it's close. I think the big difference with Howie and the other GMs, the other top GMs in the league, is that I feel extremely confident that it's him, and it has nothing to do with the coaching staff. He is the one running the team. He is the one making the picks. He's the one deciding what the team building strategy is going to be and how they're going to allocate resources. There's a lot of other really good GMs who we think are doing a really good job that are paired with elite coaches, and I kind of question, how much is this the coach developing players? How much is this the coach informing scheme fits? How much is this the coach helping, actively do scouting? And so I think that's what really sets Howie apart, beyond just some of the great moves and things he's pulled off process wise. So, Austin, any thoughts?
No, it's a great pick. I actually thought, considering Tyler's fandom, that he might go Howie Roseman number one overall, just because of how unique the GM position is and how, I mean, let's look at it from a regular fantasy football perspective. You got positions like tight end or maybe even like kicker if you really care about kicker that has like there's a few guys at the top and then the rest are basically some people you could just kind of run each week. It doesn't really matter. So like there's not a big talent pool, I think, with NFL GMs as far as these guys that are like elite and that they're like they literally become family names because of the impact that they have, like you were mentioning. So I
Hmm.
thought Tyler would go Howie Roseman even earlier, and if he had, I wouldn't have even second guessed it. I'd be like, maybe that's a little high, but man, you got Howie, and that can help you get a lot of things. So again, just the impact he brings to a team, it's a great pick.
Yeah. All right. On to your next pick, Austin.
Yeah, I've considered going a few different directions here, but I think just considering where I have this individual as far as their importance to a team, and kind of his, I think, proven potential, not quite success yet. But I'm gonna go with the guy, Joe Burrow, quarterback of the Bengals. We talked about him. I think he could be somewhat interchangeable with Herbert. I agree with you with some of those metrics that put Herbert above. But we know what Joe Burrow can do. Just I talked a lot last episode about how I think that like SEC football and just big time college football in general can translate to the NFL. Like it doesn't always happen, but if you have a guy like Joe Burrow that ran that team, okay, granted he had numerous NFL starters with him on that team, but he's still ran it well. His throws were still great. There's a reason he was drafted where he was drafted, and we've seen the success he had with the Bengals. We've had the injuries to him. There's also been injuries to other counterparts like Jamar Chase, but I think just the raw metrics, the ability, the arm strength, the accuracy, the ability to move in the pocket. I mean, it was his rookie year, was it not, that he got that injury on the move, but he had like such good mobility. Not quite what we see out of maybe like Lamar Jackson, but it's almost kind of Mahomes-esque. Or maybe like it almost even reminds me a little bit of like Aaron Rodgers, like a guy that you don't think is mobile, but can like get outside the pocket, buy himself more time, make those big plays, and can throw downfield outside the pocket to a guy like Jamar Chase, to a guy like T. Higgins. So I think Burrow is great, and I like him in this position above maybe some other players or positions that could go at this point in the draft.
Yeah, I don't love Joe Burrow. I'll be honest about that, but he was even a tier ahead of Howie Roseman and Sean McVay for me. So yeah, I think this is a little lower than I would have him even. So yeah, it's a great place to pick him. Um, I spoke a little bit about the limitations earlier, and that's why he comes after the top four quarterbacks for me. But no, he got a great track record. He can do a lot of really good things for your team. Tyler, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think at this point Joe Burrow was the obvious pick. I think I personally have him on the same tier as Herbert. I think they are franchise QBs who completely. If you have one of them, you are a playoff team, unless you do what the Bengals did last year. But you should be a playoff team if everything else is at least like near average. And I actually think you kind of need one of those teams without a Howie Roseman, or you need one of those QBs without like a Howie Roseman or an amazing built roster to
Yeah,
like really contend for a Super Bowl. So I understand why you value them so high.
yeah.
Mhm.
All right, I'm just gonna go through the picks we've made so far real quick, and then we'll jump into my two back-to-back picks here. Tyler took Patrick Mahomes, number one. Austin took Josh Allen, number two. I took Lamar Jackson, number three. I then took Justin Herbert, number four. Austin took Andy Reid at five. Tyler took Sean McVay off the board at six, and then Howie Roseman at seven. And Austin just took Joe Burrow at number eight. So now we're going to get into my pick. There's a lot of good people still on the board. I've got two more people left in my tier four. I'm going to start it off with Jayden Daniels. Some people might
Mhm.
blink at this. Some people might be a little bit surprised. 1 year track record. I really like Jayden Daniels. Going into the draft class, going to his draft class, I liked Maye better by quite a bit, and I was worried about Jayden Daniels' transition to the NFL. And then it was almost like once he got to the NFL, the things I was worried about were what he was best at. In terms of choosing when to run and when to throw, in terms of really picking out those hard throws, rather than just deep down outside the numbers. And yeah, I was so impressed by his rookie season, and I think he gives you that ceiling that Stroud had that great rookie season, but then you looked at him, you really looked through Stroud, and even though that rookie season was amazing, it's still like, okay, there are limitations. At best, we're looking at Burrow. I think when you look at Jayden Daniels, at best, you're looking at, you know, maybe you're looking at third best quarterback in the league, maybe better than Lamar, right? And you're getting way up there into the really game breaking, like I can play any way, any style of football I want. I'm ridiculously hard. You have to change your game plan significantly for me. And yeah, I think that is so incredibly valuable, and I think he belongs up here with these quarterbacks. I did have him below, Sean McVay and Howie Roseman, just because we don't have that track record yet, So I gave it a little bit of room there, but I think he belongs up here. Do you guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think it's an excellent pick. I'm so glad you took him because I wanted to bring him up to this point, and I wasn't sure how you guys were going to feel about that with the 1 year track record, but I'm so on board with it. I agree with you about well, I disagree with you about the NFL draft. I really wanted the Patriots to get him. I wanted to find a way to trade up. I wanted to find a way for him to fall down. Now in hindsight, there's no one I would rather have on the Patriots than Mr. Drake May. However, I love Jayden Daniels. I've harped on it, big time Saturday nights type of guy down at LSU, Heisman Trophy winner, just insane physical ability. He was insane at Arizona State before they brought him over. He's excellent. So I knew that he was going to fit into the NFL and do well. I like what the Commanders are doing. They've developed him great. They've put people around him to have a guy like Terry McLaurin. They have a decent offensive line. Their defense was actually somewhat decent last year. I think the Commanders are going to be a really competitive team this year. It's probably something we're going to talk about in a future episode. But I think they're going to be up there near the top, and it's going to be because of Jayden Daniels, and definitely thanks to him, at least. And so, yeah, I think it's a really good pick, and I wanted to get him, so I'm glad that you brought him up to this point.
Yeah, Tyler, any thoughts?
Yeah, so I actually had Jayden Daniels as my number six player in my rankings.
Mm-hmm.
So he was on the top of my board, still left two. I actually had him higher than Burrow and Herbert.
Wow.
Okay.
And the reason why I still think, because Burrow and Herbert, I don't think are ever going to improve a tier. Like I put them in the
Uh-huh.
same tier, I actually think Jayden Daniels could get up to the Lamar tier and maybe
Yeah,
even possibly the Josh Allen tier, which is why I
Yeah.
have him higher. We're talking
It,
long term, full upside, and yeah, I hate the fact that he's in our division. I really do,
yeah,
especially because I feel like Washington has done so much stupid stuff over the time, and that's the thing. Washington's roster still isn't amazing, so even with the generational QB, we still are the better team on paper, but it's just really annoying how they lucked into him because Greg Zuerlein made that one field goal week 18,
yeah.
the meaningless field goal, and yeah, and then the Patriots would have got him and everything would have been better. But
Hmm.
yeah, no, I think that pick was amazing there.
Yeah.
but
I'll add.
but
I'll go ahead.
go ahead.
No,
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 go
no.
ahead,
You go.
Keegan. I was gonna say like I think it's interesting how it worked out, right? Because I feel like Daniels and May fit into their systems better. Like
I
I
think
feel like
so.
if the Patriots were at two and Daniels was on the board, I don't know if we would have went May over Daniels. Like I feel like to me, I felt like Daniels had more proven ability coming out of college. Um, just with the versatility. I mean, we talked about Drake May's rushing ability, but like it's not as good as Daniels,
No.
and Daniels has a clear arm talent that's insane. So I don't know, but it's interesting because I feel like May fits this like Patriots pass first type of team. Like he is more of this field general type of guy, whereas I feel like Daniels fits into what the Commanders are trying to do with more of a spread speed offense. So it's kind
Yeah.
of interesting how that works out.
No, I definitely think he fits the Commanders a little bit better than May, and I don't know that how well he would have succeeded in a on a team that clearly didn't build around their quarterback very well last year in the
Hmm.
Patriots.
Hmm.
You know, I don't know how well he would have survived that situation. May's a little bit more built for the contact, and I think his mentality is a little bit more even keeled, consistent. Repetitive player. Although Jayden Daniels incredibly cool, and yeah, that's the one last thing I'll add to this pick is the reason he jumps this high this fast for me, and gets up into this tier after 1 year is because he's got that cool, calm, nothing bothers him, and he plays well in the playoffs. I mean,
Hmm. Yeah.
you can't. That is ridiculously hard to find in quarterbacks, and it's Mahomes has it, Allen has it, and then pretty sure Lamar doesn't have it yet, and pretty sure Burrow doesn't have it. He's had his share of bad games. Herbert clearly doesn't have it, giving up leads. And so I look at other quarterbacks who could possibly fit onto this list, and it's kind of Mahomes, Allen, Jayden Daniels, and Jalen Hurts for me. And we'll see where Jalen Hurts gets drafted at some point along the way. But those are the quarterbacks who elevate themselves in the big games, and that's what I want to see. And that's just it's so impressive, and yeah. Um, so to move on to my next pick, with the 10th pick in the draft, our 10th spot in our rankings here, I'm going to be taking head coach Kyle Shanahan. Had a rough year last year, but this is a guy who's taken Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo to Super Bowls. I think he plays a major role in the team building as well. I like John Lynch. I think he's really well spoken. I think he's probably a great mind and someone Kyle Shanahan really values having in the building. But I think Shanahan's the mastermind behind this roster and behind the scheme and behind the culture. I don't think, I think when you look at the situation that Kyle Shanahan just brings so much to the team. My only regret is I think he could be a little bit more adaptive, in his schemes, a little bit more fluid, a little bit more willing to change things over. He seems to be a little bit more focused on, no, I'm just gonna pick the players and pieces that are gonna fit into my scheme super well, and then I'm gonna play my style of football. But guess what? His style of football is incredibly successful. You have to be a very well shaped defense who really knows what you're doing and take advantage of the fact that Kyle Shanahan doesn't have an elite quarterback in order to really, limit them in any way. And even then, he's still going to put up good points. I think for the most part in his career, he's done a good job of hiring DCs. Last year wasn't great, but I think he's done a good job of helping shape the defensive roster, and then a good job of hiring those DCs and managing that side of the ball as well. And so I think he belongs up here. He's the last of my tier four picks. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, no, it's a good pick. I mean, we've talked so much about how important having a good coach and having a creative coach is, and Shanahan really fits that role. We've seen what he's done. bunch of different pieces. So yeah, I like him at this position. I agree with you with him being kind of in that tier that kind of rounds out a lot of the guys that we've been throwing out.
Yeah, the thing about Shanahan is his scheme is absolutely iconic, and the whole idea is what that we that's been in sports media talks for like over about a decade now, even over a decade, is oh, it's such a simple scheme, it's so easy to stop, it's so easy for a QB, but they are still successful year after year after year. It's really hard to stop it if you have the right talent in place,
Hmm.
and yeah, I think a lot of Shanahan's stuff about what he does as the head coach too, more of like the head coach duties gets underrated just because of the talks around his scheme. But no, he's ran like very efficient, well-ran organizations for over a decade now. So
Yeah. No, and I think typically the other great thing I love about Shanahan's scheme is that most of the great franchises right now build through the trenches, and I agree with that strategy wholeheartedly. Don't get me wrong, but I think one of the things Shanahan does best is dealing with those monster trench units. I think he has a better scheme and ability to kind of overcome those than even McVay and Reid, who I probably have ahead of him as coaches right now. Or well, I think I have Shanahan ahead of Reid a little bit, but yeah, I think the ability to kind of deal with those high level trench units and get the ball out in various ways and capitalize on other schemes is very impressive. And also he's you know you want to play too high in this you want to play too high against Shanahan like everybody wants to against everybody else. It's not You're not going to have a good day. So it forces you to kind of be it forces most defensive coordinators to kind of be out of their comfort zone right now. All right, let's kick it back to Austin for his next pick.
Yeah. So again, I feel like I'm in this like inner tier region where I could go a few different ways, but I feel like the best pick that makes most sense to me right now is jumping back to GM and going Brett Veach of the Kansas City Chiefs. We've talked about how important the GM is, and I think he's done an excellent job of coming into the building and really not necessarily completely changing the culture because Reid was hired first and kind of started to do that, but definitely amplifying and magnifying what the Chiefs were trying to do, being part of getting Mahomes into the building, being kind of in charge of that Tyreek Hill trade that, especially here in Kansas City, most people were very down on. I mean, people love Tyreek Hill. People did not think it was a good idea to send him down to Miami, and we've seen how well that has worked out for the Chiefs. If you see like the money they spent and the way they were able to spend it, and the draft picks that trade resulted in, and honestly, even trading Hill to another team in the AFC, the Chiefs have completely owned the Dolphins. It hasn't become a problem for them. I don't know if the Dolphins have the Dolphins got one game above the Chiefs. I know the Chiefs have two playoff games over the Dolphins, including that what was it, negative degree playoff
Yeah.
temperature game. That was crazy. So I don't know if that one was very fair, you could say, for the Dolphins, but needless to say, I mean, that was a great decision. And just everything else that the Chiefs have been doing from a management side has been, I don't know if you can say perfect, but really good. It doesn't leave you, there's not a lot of head scratchers, I think, when it comes to the way the Chiefs run their organization as a team. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of distractions. They hire like the right guys. There doesn't seem to be a ton of holes. They're hiring the right pieces. And Brett Veach is really at the top of that kind of mastermind that's influencing a lot of those
Mhm.
decisions. And so I think he's a guy that you really want to have on your team. And I think just the impact he's made on the Chiefs as far as their NFL success is almost unparalleled, other than a guy, Howie Roseman, that's already on our draft board.
Yeah. I think this was a really hard spot to draft. I think there's a
yeah,
big tier drop off here, so I think you could have gone a lot of different ways. And I get the Veach pick. I personally have every non-Howie, every consensusly elite GM outside of Howie, quite a bit lower in my rankings, just because I think the coaches at most of those spots kind of inform a lot of what they do. Um, Another knock against Veach. Not to hate on my guy. I love Veach. I love how he's run this, but another knock on him is I don't think team building gets easier than having Patrick Mahomes on the roster. And I mean for a multitude of reasons. One Mahomes is the I'm gonna go fix it. I'm gonna play whatever style you need me to play, and so you can kind of build the team however you want, leave the holes wherever you want. Mahomes is still gonna make it a Super Bowl team. as long as it's a overall quality roster. Then additionally, Mahomes from a financial perspective, maybe that Hurts contract is a little bit better from a contract standpoint, but Mahomes has been incredibly flexible about
Mm-hmm.
allowing the Chiefs to move money wherever they want to move it and pay him whatever years they want to pay him. The contract's very locked in terms of the guarantees vest 2 years out, and Mahomes is always in an extremely secure place financially in terms of the guaranteed money, but he allows them to manipulate and move it around however the hell they want. He doesn't create any PR fires about it for you either, or with your trying to figure out contracts with the teammates. So those are my kind of knocks. Is he's got the most simplifying roster building piece in the league, in my opinion. And so that it makes the evaluation difficult. On top of Andy Reid, I'm sure playing a significant role in terms of what guys are we picking and how are we building this team. Tyler, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of agree with a lot of both of your points right here. However, I do think what Veach does on day three in the draft is ridiculous. Like he drafts day three better than majority of teams in the league draft days one and two. The amount of quality players he gets on day three is kind of ridiculous, and I think that part is really hard to
Yeah,
value because when you're a winning team, you have to hit on those later round picks, and that's
it's
I mean
totally
Howie
fair.
Roseman does it too. It's I think
Mm-hmm.
Howie Roseman said to quote on day three we are not drafting backups. You draft backups, like you will always become last. Day three is for drafting starters, and I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that's how Veach views it too. And I think that part of him, I love his drafts almost every year, even though
Mm-hmm.
I think Andy Reid does also have a lot of input in who gets drafted there,
Yeah.
which is why it's really hard to evaluate each. Because yeah, he has Mahomes, he has Reid. How much is he really doing? But overall, I mean, the Chiefs are the best run organization in the league right now, excluding like ownership in terms of like uh, player personnel and everything of those sorts. So it's hard to knock on a pick, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
All right, let's get it going. Tyler, your next pick.
Okay. Yeah, so once again, we're in this little bit of a tier thing where a lot of the players uh, are and coaches are about the same. But over here, I'm gonna go for the upside pick, and I'm gonna go Drake May at quarterback. Like, just because he could be Justin Herbert. We've seen he has the arm talent, he has the running talent, and if you really want to win a Super Bowl, that's kind of what you need at QB. So I feel like at this point, I think I'm gonna go upside out of the group because there's like four or five guys who I view pretty equally. I'm gonna go with the guy with the highest upside.
I I love Drake May, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but this was really high for me.
Really?
I have a ton of head coaches ahead of him because I just don't know about Drake May. I don't know yet, and I know about those head coaches. Um, I I really like Drake May, and you're totally right about the upside. So yeah, I'm not gonna disagree there. I think just personally, when I looked at the list, I was kind of like, I'd rather have these guys who I know are gonna build an amazing organizational structure and provide all that support, compared to Drake May. So that's my thoughts. Austin.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be surprising to get this devil's advocate opinion from me, the Drake May guy. But like, I kind of agree with Keegan. Now, like, if you draft like at his ceiling, yeah, I totally agree. He completely belongs here. He can be that new like Justin Herbert type of guy. But I agree with Keegan that like other than or unlike a guy like Jayden Daniels who like won a lot more games, like went to the playoffs, we don't really know about Drake May. Like we can speculate and we can say, all right, he has what he needs and he can be elite. But like it's not necessarily as proven yet. So that's why I would agree with Keegan on taking some other coaches, maybe some other more proven guys. But you can't hate on a Drake May pick. The upside's there. Love the guy. We talked about the heart and the culture last week. So I think he's a great guy to have on the team. I don't think it's a terrible pick, but it
No,
does
no.
shakes up the tiers as far as they stand right now in this present time. So I like it.
Yeah, I will say he's my next quarterback. It's just that I after the quarterbacks we'd already taken, I felt that everybody else was kind of either unproven or had significant knocks. And so I felt that a lot of the head coaches in the league were more valuable to me. So
Yeah, I just think the upside you could get with May makes him really enticing, which is why I felt like he does deserve to go this high.
I get it. Yeah.
Because I don't think any of the other QBs past this point have that type of upside in
hmm
them, in my
I
opinion.
I think
Maybe Cam Ward, but we haven't seen him play a
oh
snap yet.
oh I no I disagree. I don't think I like Cam Ward. I think he was good enough to be a number one overall draft pick. I don't think the ceiling's there. I think you're looking at pretty much Caleb Williams, and that's about it.
Okay.
Maybe Trevor Lawrence in my opinion, but yeah, um, that's just
Okay,
my
yeah.
take on it.
No, okay, yeah. I don't think he has as much upside as Drake May just because he's not a physically, he's not as big, doesn't have the same level arm strength, but I
hmm
think he still has like really high upside.
That's
He
fair.
still was a number one overall pick for
That's
a
fair.
reason. But yeah, for my next pick, yeah, I'm gonna go one of the coaches here.
hmm
And I have four coaches all in the same tier.
Yeah.
And that's also kind of why I went QB first, just to stand out. Because I only had May in this tier.
Yep.
But I'm gonna give a top guy in my opinion, and that's Kevin O'Connell.
Yep.
Mm,
I think from the Rams, he was amazing. He learned from McVay. I think he models his team after McVay. And every single year, the Vikings Vegas line is set at like 5 to 6 wins. And that team ends up with 13, 14 wins every year
hmm
for a reason. It's the rosters are talented, but no, those Vikings teams every year are propped up by coaching. I do have to give some credit to Flores too. What he did to the defense last year was incredible. But I do think that Kevin O'Connell
Yeah, but
really
who
runs a
hired
well.
Flores? Like
Yes,
we
true.
give
Yeah,
credit to McVay and Shanahan for that, you know?
yeah. But it's a well-oiled machine, and yeah, that's why I value Kevin O'Connell. And of course, yeah, he's a great schemer too. It's just he runs a really good operation in Minnesota right now.
Yeah, I can't
mhm.
even begin to disagree with this. This was the top guy left on my board. You know, a tier below Shanahan for me. Shanahan McVay, but yeah, I love Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah, dude, I'm equal parts in love with this pick and absolutely despise it just because I wanted to be able to be the guy to get him. I was like deciding between a few guys while you were making your Drake May pick. I'm like, nah, like Kevin O'Connell, like reigning coach of the year. Just like Keegan was saying, like they always like have like the lowest expectations and they went out there and like didn't even have a quarterback and made a guy like Sam Darnold look like a Pro Bowler. Like we'll see if Sam Darnold really has the talent and it was just the Jets that were failing him. But I kind of view it as like a Ryan Tannehill, Mike Vrabel type of situation where kind of took a player and like anyone starting in the NFL is good enough. I don't know if Sam Darnold is exactly a Super Bowl quarterback. But Kevin O'Connell made him look like he could be one. So it was kind of a shame to see that the way that the Vikings finished out that season. But a really good team and a really good coach. So I'm in love with that pick. Yeah,
Yeah.
solid.
All right, Austin,
Um,
take it away.
yeah, that leaves me in an interesting spot because I was really high on Kevin O'Connell. So I think now at this position, I'm gonna go with a guy. And Keegan, you might disagree with this for reasons that you were saying that you didn't have a lot of QBs left at this point. But I really think Jalen Hurts belongs here in the conversation. A lot of people argue that he doesn't have everything he needs to get it done, or that he can't carry a team. But the guy was the Super Bowl MVP last year, so the most valuable player of a team that won the most important accomplishment in the NFL. And so I think that really speaks for itself. I think just winning one Super Bowl is a huge accomplishment that gets some quarterbacks into the Hall of Fame. I'm not arguing that Jalen Hurts is a Hall of Famer as we stand, but just the raw ability, he is that new age quarterback that can run, can pass. Now, having a guy named Saquon Barkley standing next to you and AJ Brown and Devontae Smith down the field and Sirianni coaching your team and Howie Roseman in the office, it all helps. And it kind of is like, kind of like my Brett Veach pick. He said it's kind of hard to evaluate that guy's specific role, but with a quarterback, you can see the film. You can watch him on the field. He makes the throws. He makes the runs. Kind of like Jayden Daniels, like he knows when to run and pass. Again, his team helps out with that, and having the offensive line that he has is also super important. But I think he really belongs in this position. Just considering his transition from college to NFL and the way that he's continued to grow. He hasn't just stayed at his college expectation, I think, or at his draft expectation. I really think that he has met his ceiling and continues to push it up a little bit. He's a great player, and I like him just as an individual too. I think he's a great leader. He's kind of like Jane Daniels in that like even keeled, super calm, can play in the playoffs, can lead his team, can pick up his teammates. Like I like having a guy like that in the room. So I think I think Jalen Hurts at this position.
Tyler, I'll let you take first crack at your quarterback.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of stuff you said. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is an amazing player. He is a large part of the reason why we won a Super Bowl.
Mhm.
I do have concerns with Hurts still, such as the fact that he is still reliant on running the football, and he's getting up to 27. The speed starting to go in the past few years. I'm really
Mhm.
not sure how good he will be long term. Like I still think he could be a league average QB in even after the running goes, just because I think his deep ball is really good. I think that's only going to improve. But the fact of him being an actual Super Bowl caliber QB, I don't know how long that window will last. However,
Hmm.
if you heard what LaShawn McCoy said about he heard this from AJ Brown on a podcast, he said that Jalen Hurts is the OC.
Yeah.
He is the one. Like we always call it the Sirianni offense. No, that's not Sirianni. That is Jalen Hurts doing what he wants. He wants a lot of deep balls. He wants a lot of design QB runs, and he wants every single throw to be outside the numbers.
Mhm.
And you could kind of make the argument that he is like not that scheme dependent because of this, because
Mhm.
whatever OC has to adapt to what he likes to do. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, obviously we saw what happened with Brian Johnson. It was a complete disaster there. But that was also because he was so over reliant on screens, which the Eagles have just never ran well even last year. And all really Kellen Moore did to the offense was just add in a few misdirection type plays, and it was a little bit higher level offense, but it was still a Jalen Hurts offense. And there's a reason he's been successful with a new OC every single year since his first year of college.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit high for him for me where you picked him, but I don't hate the pick.
Yeah. So I had Drake May a little one step ahead of Jalen Hurts on my list, but I thought Jalen Hurts was down there, so this is a little high for me. Um, I have a hard time. I do totally agree with Tyler. Like he's definitely the OC. He's definitely dictating most of that, and I gotta give him credit for that because it could be a lot worse. I think a lot of quarterbacks, if they were in that position, the scheme looks worse. It's fairly well adapted to the personnel. However, I I have a really hard time putting someone. I have a really hard time putting a quarterback up this high when they're behind that offensive line and they're throwing to those weapons and they've got that explosive run game and you've got all these simplifying pieces around you that make the game incredibly easy relative to other quarterbacks. I mean, when you look at Justin Herbert and what he's dealing with year in and year out in LA, I have a hard time giving Jalen Hurts that much credit. Maybe that's on me and I'm not giving him the credit I should, but yeah. So,
Yeah. I mean, you make a good point. I just like, we keep talking about Justin Herbert, and like, I do think Justin Herbert is better than Jalen Hurts. But like, if you just look at the success, I mean, Jalen Hurts has been to two Super Bowls. You can't say that about Justin Herbert. And, granted, Hurts has had better teams that have helped get him there. But we can see like we've seen like teams. It's not really possible to succeed in the NFL without that solid leadership quarterback. And I think Herbert can be that if he has the weapons around him. Um, but we have seen, with Hurts, like he can be that guy. And I know that he has the weapons and he has people to throw to, but he's still got to be the guy that throws them the ball. And like his accuracy is great. Like Tyler said, that deep ball is like almost unguardable. Again, when you have a guy like AJ Brown catching it, it helps, but he's still got to get it there. And he does it game in and game out. And you also see, look back at the Super Bowl loss. He had made like a ton of mistakes. You could almost say Jalen Hurts lost them that game. But then he comes back like the next few seasons and like fixes it. He doesn't it doesn't seem like it's a consistent problem. It really just seems like it was like a bad game. So even some of his like bigger faults, I don't think are actual like big player traits. They really are just like some mistakes that he fixes. You guys talked about how he continues to get better with each OC. Like I think he does continue to progress. His work ethic's really good. So yeah, I think he definitely kind of can be the quarterback that you need him to be, even despite, some of the downfalls you guys mentioned.
yeah. Um,
I disagree with the Super Bowl
yeah.
comment.
I
I
I
would
think
actually
outside of the
argue that that
fumble, which
was
wasn't
one of
really his
Jalen
fault
Hurts'
that
best games
much.
of his career.
Yeah. I think outside of the fumble, which
I
wasn't
don't know.
really
I
his
think Jalen
fault.
Hurts is the only
Hey,
reason.
okay. Hey, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, I think that was he was the reason that it was a game.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think
Yeah.
that was the best he's ever thrown on the run in a game. And yeah,
Okay.
no, but that's a part of his value. He gets better during the big games.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, and I'm not gonna deny him that. I am gonna kind of stick to my guns. Like, it's not just that he has like good players at a bunch of position. He's got all pros at like
Mhm.
5 or 6 different spots for the majority of his
Mhm.
career around him on the offense. I mean, AJ Brown has been an all pro the past 2 years. Both his tackles have played like all pros or close to it the past few years. I mean, we're not just talking pro bowlers. We're talking the best in the league at their position, and those skill players create insane explosives. But yeah, I'm gonna move on to my next 2 picks. So I'm pretty glad Austin just took Jalen Hurts there because I'm gonna go and take the next 2 guys I have in tier 5 for me. So Dan Campbell is my first pick. I'm not a super big Dan
Mhm.
Campbell guy because I don't love what brain drain's gonna look like and having to continually replace that offensive coordinator spot. Um, but Dan Campbell, there's no argument, amazingly structured organization. He did a good job hiring the OCs in the first place, so this is just a little bit of a year where we can evaluate and see, is he going to be able to hit this regularly, or is this did he maybe catch a little bit of lightning in the bottle with those previous 2 OC picks? So this one could have some variance after this year. I could see this one moving up a few spots or moving down a few spots, but it's hard to argue that Dan Campbell doesn't get players like he gets players playing at the height of their ability. He gets them motivated to come in the building and he gets them playing their best football. I think they're really conscientious with how they're building the team and what type of players they want in the building. And I think some people are going to argue, well, but you got to get these talented guys. You just have to get the talent sometimes. But Dan Campbell knows what he's doing, and the feeling in that locker room is great. Quick thoughts?
Mhm. Yeah, no, I love a guy like Dan Campbell. When you come in your introductory press conference and you give quotes like biting off kneecaps that people are quoting for years and years.
All right, looks like we're experiencing some technical difficulties here. We're going to see when they get back in. That Dan Campbell introductory press conference was pretty killer. Um,
behind that, the grit he preaches, and the way
oh,
I
we're
actually
back.
think um he has a large control over what the team does from a team building perspective too. He wants to build up the trenches. He wants to draft the big beefy guys, and I actually think that I mean that's what the Eagles do too. I think that's the way to win, especially in the NFC.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, fantastic. All right, I'm gonna move on. My next pick is Matt LaFleur. I think he's been basically the same type of guy as Kevin O'Connell. Just I think Kevin O'Connell's had a little bit better philosophy on team building, and I want to give Kevin O'Connell credit for the Brian Flores hire. Because that's something I think that would be my biggest problem with Matt LaFleur, is that I just don't think he's getting the defense right, and I don't know if they just can't, they're just missing on a few draft picks here and there, or the or the DC pick is not correct, or what. But Kevin O'Connell's pretty much gotten that sorted, whereas I'm I'm waiting for LaFleur to figure that out and get that going. But I still really love him. Great offensive schemer. I think he does a really good job. Just like everybody on his team understands what they're trying to do. They understand the goal. I think Jordan Love has a lot more work to do, but I think that's more about Jordan Love being who he is than about Matt LaFleur not being able to get him there. Any thoughts?
no, I agree. I was actually debating a little bit between LaFleur and O'Connell too for my pick, just because they both are in a similar like realm. Both have been there for a few years now, have been part of a previous regime that has been great, and I think they both are natural leaders who are also great schemers, which is really what you want as a head coach.
Right.
But yeah, no, I do agree that Kevin O'Connell has been better. Yeah, the Flores hire really nailed. Like, I mean, I love Flores when he was in Miami, and I know it was some issue with the ownership, but he's a great defensive mind, and I'm happy that O'Connell was willing to give him a chance.
hmm
which I think a lot of other head coaches around the league wouldn't have done.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
All right.
No, great pick.
Yeah. Kick it over to Austin. Keep this thing rolling.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna make it simple. I'm gonna go with a guy that I think definitely fits in with a lot of these other names, and that's John Harbaugh, Ravens coach. I think he's a great coach. I think he has a lot of success. There's definitely a lot of seasons that I don't think went quite as well as the Ravens would have hoped. Obviously, you want to end with a Lombardi every year, but he's a great coach. One of the big things that the NFL like you need as an NFL team is when you have a bad coach, you need to fire them. We see that with good teams. Like good teams know when to cut the plug or when to pull the plug when they need to. And the Ravens are a good organization. They know what they're doing, and they've kept Harbaugh in the building for a reason. Like even when they've had disappointing seasons, they know it's not necessarily him as the problem. I think he's a great leader. We see the way that he runs his team. His schemes are really good. He is a Super Bowl winning coach. So yeah, I really like John Harbaugh here.
Yeah. I agree. My only note is I think it's not just Lamar. We like to dish a lot of the playoff problems in recent years on Lamar. I don't
Mhm.
think it's
Yeah.
just Lamar. I think he's
Yeah.
played a little bit of a role with that. But once you're
Yeah.
getting down into this tier, yeah, I think he's like I've got one person ahead of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the only thing is the playoffs, and then he's probably only got about 10 years of coaching left. But besides that, great coach, great guy, like is continuously good hires, and I think he informs a lot of that team draft strategy that
Mhm.
everybody loves consistently year over year. Tyler, any
Yep.
thoughts?
yeah, no, I think it's a good pick. I mean, he is a little bit on the older side, which isn't the worst thing in the world because he's not that old. How old is he actually?
I
Do you
think
know the
he's
exact?
62.
Okay, yeah, so he could still be coaching for 10 more years, which is really all you need for a Super Bowl window. But
Mhm.
yeah, no, he's been consistently great year after year. He's won a ring already. It's hard to hate on that pick at this point. Like I feel like it's a pretty good pick.
Hmm.
Yeah, and like you said, like those downfalls are his Achilles heel. Like they're the reason he isn't up with these other guys
Yeah.
and hasn't won a couple more Super Bowls in the last few years. Is those shortcomings? 'Cause I agree, it's not just Lamar. We've seen some coaching mistakes from Harbaugh. So,
Hmm.
hopefully in the next 10 years, maybe he can fix that. Because I like this Ravens team. I mean, I
Oh yeah.
like what they're doing up there in Baltimore. I love the new players they have. I mean, bringing Derrick Henry in the building is like, I mean, it's just smart. It's just a
Hmm.
great pick. I don't know how
Great
the rest of the
value.
league let him. Yeah, like I don't know how the rest of the league let that happen. So I really want to see them have some success. But I guess for now, I only want him to see. I only want to see him go as far as the AFC Championship because Drake May has Super Bowls to win. So
Maybe not for a few years here. All right. Tyler, you wanna take your next pick?
Yes. With the next pick, uh, I'm going to take the absolute upside pick here. That is probably the biggest gamble of this entire draft. I'm going to take Ben Johnson here.
okay.
We do not know how he will be as a head coach. There's been a lot of stuff about his character and how he's cocky, but we've seen cocky coaches have success in the league. Like Nick Sirianni's the biggest one. Sometimes you kind of want that attitude out of your head coach, and I think Ben Johnson, you could credit a lot of Detroit's offensive success to him. I do think Dan Campbell had a large role, but he was the X's and O's guys behind one of the most efficient offenses we've seen in the league. I think number one efficiency last year.
Hmm.
Uh, Overall, I just think the way he sees a football field is something special, and the fact that he cannot get poached anymore is really nice because that's always been a talk in Detroit. When is he going to get poached? But now he's, yeah, now he's in Chicago. I really am excited to see what the Chicago offense looks like this year.
Yeah. So am I. I think so. I fell on the other side of the fence of that was too risky. I think why is that every coach we picked so far, very good CEO. Runs the team really well. The chemistry is great across the board. They're not having massive locker room issues. And I've got about five more of those guys, I think, on the board that run their team that well. And we just don't know if Ben Johnson's gonna, do it that well or not. And so when I looked at, I fell on the other side of the fence and didn't think the upside justified wandering into that unknown in terms of managing a team because it's a very different set of skills that requires. But I totally get the pick. Austin.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good pick. Um, but maybe a bit of a reach. Again, just like the Drake May pick, if we say we're playing it to the ceiling, okay, yeah, super good. But I agree with you. It's like you need to have those like the locker room, the leadership, all of those things that go along with making the coach not just the play caller, but like the captain of the team, the actual captain of the ship. You need to have that, I think, to be an elite level coach. And so it's unproven, so we don't know. I think that you look at what he's done with the Lions, and the Lions have a great culture. Obviously, that comes down from Dan Campbell, but he's a part of it, and Campbell really liked him. So you would hope to see that he carries that forward, but it's unproven. So maybe it's a bit of a reach, but I can't say I hate it.
All right, so that we get out of here on time, I'm gonna give us each one more pick, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. Tyler, you wanna go ahead and take that second pick?
Okay. Yeah, with the last pick, I'm gonna take this guy who I feel like is just safe because I feel like we know what we're getting with him at this point in his career, and that is a CJ Stroud.
Okay.
I think you are getting a high level QB who is young, talented, and will continually make the playoffs every year. Is he a true Super Bowl Like, I think you can win a Super Bowl with him easily. I don't think that's
Oh
even
yeah.
a debate. But can he elevate a team to reach a Super Bowl? Is the real question. After his rookie year, I would have said yes, and after last year, a little bit more hesitant on it. But I still do believe he has what it takes to elevate a team to a Super Bowl. We've seen him have success in college. Uh, he kind of reminds me of like a supercharged version of Nick Foles. I just think he needs to catch fire at the right time, but I think he could do that. I'm just a little bit concerned with the Texans' direction, but I'm not as concerned with him right now.
Mhm. All right. Yeah. No, I get the pick. I think still there's a lot of head coaches. I'm kind of in that head coach mode right now. I just think they're because they lead the organization and they're controlling so many aspects of it along with the team building and they're helping with the team building. I value them over guys like this, but no, I get it. I think Stroud's been, underrated this offseason. I think he needs to be given more credit. So, Austin.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like Stroud. I actually was considering going Stroud at this position. I think it's about where he belongs. I also do agree with Tyler's comment that like after his rookie year, like if he had a sophomore season like his rookie year, he would have gone, 30 minutes ago. But we did see kind of a bit of a regression. So I'm really excited to see what he brings forward this season. But I think, the raw talent is there, and I think he's a great player. Again, big time college player. We saw it his first year. I think he's going to continue to succeed. I like what the Texans are doing with that organization. So that helps. It's harder to succeed as a new rookie, rookie, second year, third year quarterback when your organization's a mess. So he has the support he needs. I think he's going to get back to maybe not the same success as the rookie year, but I think he'll definitely improve from last year. I think he learned a lot.
All right. Austin, your last
Yeah.
pick.
With my last pick, I've been thinking a few different directions. And I actually even considered going D'Amico Ryans, the head coach of the Texans, because of what he's done there. But I think a guy that goes before him in my mind, is Sean McDermott. I'm not a huge Bills guy, but he's a great coach. We've seen the success. He's gotten his team, to where they want to be quite a few seasons. They continue to fall short. A lot of that at the hands of the Chiefs and Coach Reid. But I think that McDermott has what he needs to be a good coach. I think he's a pretty good leader. His players like him. They continue to succeed, in meaningless games, in important games, in playoff games. And so, we'll see if he can really help the team take the next leap. I think the Bills kind of have an interesting, you can not like rebuild, but like a transition period with kind of like an all new offense that's going to be around Josh Allen this season. So I'm interested to see how he carries that. But he has kind of been at the like he has been leading the team through all these different transitions, through bringing in Josh Allen and all these other guys. We saw him bring in Diggs and the way that he succeeded there up in Buffalo. So I'm excited to see what he does next season. But I think, yeah, Dermott belongs at this spot.
Yeah, no, I agree with this. I think there's one coach who I'm about to take that I would have had ahead of McDermott. Although originally when I made the tiers last night for myself, I did have McDermott higher. So I'm just going back and forth on it a little bit, but yeah, no, I think the primary thing that really stands out to me about McDermott is that he's got about an extra 10 years until he's 70 than like the Harbaughs and a couple of those coaches that I think are better right now. And then in addition to that, he continually nails figuring out OC, and he's not afraid to move on from one to make sure Josh Allen has the right scheme going on around him and making that right. And then I also really like the team building philosophy. It's hard to say whether that's all him or all Bean or but in reality, it's probably a mix of both. And I like how they've kind of shifted into this trench heavy style, and they're really focusing on playing consistent football with Josh Allen. I think that's been a really impressive transition for them. So yeah, I like the pick. Tyler.
I do like the pick. My only concerns about McDermott are the fact that how he has an easier coaching job too, being with Josh Allen at QB. It's easier to look good when you have like a real generational quarterback. But no, I do think he's the Bills never have any sort of crash outs or anything along those sorts. It's always smooth sailing for them. Even when even their roughest patches, I feel like McDermott does a good job at just holding it in, keeping a steady organization, which is what you value out of a head coach. So I like the pick here.
Yeah. So last pick in the draft, I'll take for our, let's see, what is this? Our 21st our 21st person here. I'm going to be taking Sean Payton. He's the one guy I had ahead of Sean McDermott. Originally, I had tiered it out, and I had Sean McDermott ahead of him last night. Um, but I really like Sean Payton and what he's done. One, he's an offensive mind, so you don't have to worry about the scheming is all taken care of by him. I like that. And then past that, I think there's some serious benefits. I think he continually is really working good with the quarterback. He does a really good job of figuring that out, and I think what he's done with Bo Nix is really impressive. I think some of the downsides are fairly sharp in terms of like he seems to be very particular about the types of players he wants in the building, and very particular about if the guy's not who he wants. He's kind of gone, and he was willing to deal with like he had no desire, and I think it significantly impacted his coaching. He had no desire to deal with Russell Wilson. He
Mm.
wanted him out. He did not want to. He didn't. I don't even think for a second he explored considering making that work. And I don't totally blame him on the front of on wanting to move on from Russell Wilson, but I thought it was a little extreme how all that was handled and like the inability to even make that work like moderately well that season when I'm pretty sure he could have. So yeah, I have a couple problems with Sean Payton, but overall I like the offensive mind aspect and the scheme a little bit better than what Sean McDermott does. But I think they're both pretty close and in the same tier. So, any thoughts?
Yeah. No, yeah, Sean Payton's great. He has the proven ability, Super Bowl winning coach. Obviously, helps having Drew Brees. But I feel like we've seen this like total Saints crash out. They're probably gonna be like the worst team in the NFL next year. I think he kind of gets wrapped up in that. I think a lot of people think like, oh, the Saints suck now, like Sean McDermott or Sean Payton's kind of part of that. Or like you look at like the Broncos and how bad they were with Russell Wilson. You're like, oh, he can't really repeat it. It was all Drew Brees. But I don't think there's a ton of truth to that. I mean, there's got to be like a little bit. But I agree with you. I think that Russell Wilson pairing just didn't work at all. And we've seen how well they've done with Bo Nix. Bo Nix, I think, is arguably could be better than Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's accomplishments speak for themselves. But I think Bo Nix is going to be really good. So that helps. But he was still a rookie quarterback, and they're still rebuilding the team. And so, like, I think the success they had speaks a lot of volumes to his actual versatility as a head coach, in addition to what he accomplished down in New Orleans. Yeah, it's a good pick. He belongs here, I think.
Tyler, any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mostly agree with what you said. I think Sean Payton, he's accomplished. He's been here a while. Great scheme. He's had great success with QBs in the past.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, they traded a first for him for a reason, and I think right now they're happy with that
Yeah.
decision. So
Mhm.
it's just, yeah, when a coach who's retired get traded for a first, that's how you really know the league values him high.
Hmm.
So, and I mean, yeah, Broncos fans right now I know are ecstatic with how the team looked last year. And
Oh, more technical difficulties. Sorry about that, folks. We'll see if Tyler pops back in a couple seconds. But until then, yeah, I think he's just really enumerating. Sean Payton brings a lot of stability to the offense. Okay, we're back.
yeah,
Having a little bit of glitch there. Um, you have any? You want to kind of wrap up what you were saying about Sean Payton
yeah,
where it
how
cut
much
off?
did got cut off? Trying to think where I left.
Not much. It's been about 20 seconds.
Okay. Yeah, what I was saying is, yeah, he got traded for a first rounder, which something that and Broncos fans right now are pretty ecstatic with what they're seeing out of it, and I think a large part of that is due to Sean Payton. In addition to Bo Nix, I'm not putting Bo Nix down by any means, but I think having a Sean Payton scheme as a rookie, it's kind of nice, and I think it really did help Bo Nix out his rookie year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Well, so that's gonna wrap up our draft. I'm gonna go through the picks real quick, and then I'm gonna get us out of here. So, just real quick, Tyler, number one overall, took Patrick Mahomes. Number two overall, Josh Allen. Austin picked that. At 3 and 4, I picked Lamar Jackson and then Justin Herbert. Austin took Andy Reid at 5. Tyler took Sean McVay at 6, and then Howie Roseman at 7. Austin took Joe Burrow at 8. Then I took Jayden Daniels at 9 and Kyle Shanahan at 10. Veach was picked by Austin at pick 11. Tyler took Drake May at 12 and then Kevin O'Connell at 13. Austin took Jalen Hurts at 14. I took Dan Campbell at 15 and then Matt LaFleur at 16. Austin came back and picked John Harbaugh at 17, and Tyler picked up Ben Johnson at 18 and C.J. Stroud at 19. And then to round it out, Austin took Sean McDermott at 20, and I took Sean Payton at 21. So that was our rankings of quarterbacks, players in general, coaches, and GMs in the league. Kind of how valuable they are to franchises. Thanks for joining us for the third episode of Save the Franchise. We really enjoyed having you here. Hopefully, some people will start listening to this. Give us a like and subscribe, and leave us a comment. I'm sure we'll respond. Have a nice day.